This episode of The Mandalorian moved the plot forward way more than the other episodes have, and we've got to talk about that cameo because I was mind blown. Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be breaking down and reviewing The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 5, titled The Pirate. Before we get into that, I have some pretty crazy news. This weekend I went to GalaxyCon and I got to meet the man without fear himself, Charlie Cox, aka Daredevil. Not only did I get to meet him, but I also met the kingpin of crime, Vincent D'Onofrio, Wilson Fisk. I got to meet them, they were amazing. I asked them about Daredevil Born Again, and if you guys want to see a video, hit that subscribe button and get us to 300 subs, because honestly, it was just such a great experience and I'm dying to tell you guys. Anyways, like usual, we're going to break down the episode and then I'm going to give my thoughts. This episode starts off on Navarro with Greef Karga. Now, the pirates who we saw in the previous episodes are back and they're actually taking Navarro over. Greef Karga is calling on the New Republic to help save the planet from pirates, but the New Republic is technically just not doing anything. It's weird, there's supposed to be this new good power in the galaxy, but they don't really seem to have much power or care much about its people. It's weird because we're actually getting a sense of the fact that maybe they are more like the Empire than we thought, especially with the stuff we saw with Dr. Pershing. Again, Gorian Shard, who is the leader of these pirates, looks incredible, and I hear that he's going to be actually the main villain of Skeleton Crew, which is coming out soon. So when Greef Karga is going to reach out to the New Republic, we get to actually see Carson Teva again, who we remember from previous seasons. He was the X-Wing pilot that let Din Djarin go when he was trapped, and he returns here as a New Republic officer who Greef Karga wants to help him. Now, Carson Teva actually does care about this more than many of the other New Republic officers. So much so that he's looking into Moff Gideon and what really happened to him after season 2 because, well, spoiler alert, he didn't actually get captured. Now, right as this scene is ending, one of the coolest things happened. My jaw absolutely hit the floor. Now, if you're not super familiar with Star Wars Rebels, it's an animated series that you can stream right now on Disney Plus, and honestly I think it's just as good as the Clone Wars with some bits, and actually I think some of its best moments are better than a lot of the Clone Wars. But a character from that show pops up here, and this is Zeb. Zeb was one of the main characters from Rebels, and we've seen him time and time again in that series, and we finally get to see him in live action. Voiced by Steve Blum, it is incredible to finally hear him live, and we're going to see him hopefully again in the Ahsoka show, and so on. I know I'm saying incredible a lot, I'm just super excited because I love this character and that show just is so dear to me. They say it's a kid's show, but look at all the mass murder that happens in that show. It is not just for kids. They're laying the groundwork for Ahsoka because that show's coming out next and we're pretty close to a trailer, at least I hope we are. As I've said before, that is my most anticipated show, and if they're showing Zeb now and how good he looks, I cannot wait for the next show. So Greef Karga is basically all out of luck. He has nowhere else to go, so of course he calls Mando. Now this episode is sort of a side mission, but it definitely moves the plot along a lot further than some of the other episodes have. The Mandalorians are discussing whether they should help Greef Karga or not, and we actually see Paz Vizsla take a stand. Now we remember in the past how Paz Vizsla defended Mando from everybody else on Navarro against Greef Karga in the first season. So they don't really have the best relationship going in, but he realizes that this guy has changed and he's trying to save people, and Din saved his son last episode, so he trusts his judgment on saving Greef and his people. I really like the character development we're getting with Paz Vizsla. You know, he started off as such a quiet character, but now we're actually getting moments with him where he's opening up and you can actually start to like him as a character. So basically, to sum it up, they actually end up helping them, and then they go to Navarro and they have this huge battle. And once again, hats off to Lucasfilm, hats off to Disney, hats off to everybody who worked on this, because this TV show looks like a cinematic movie. It was beautiful. The CGI is spot on, not just with the aliens and the creatures, but the space battles, explosions, landscape, everything. It looks so realistic. They use the volume technology here that we've seen use in other projects, especially like in Marvel projects, but it doesn't really work as well there. It really just works super well in the world of Star Wars because it's alien. It's something we haven't experienced. Even if the environments, etc., look super familiar, it just fits. But yeah, just the CGI is top notch once again, and I'm so glad that this show gets the budget that it deserves. We also see Bo-Katan throughout this episode really delving into the fact that she's a part of this group now. I was a little hesitant at the beginning to trust her and to believe that she would actually accept the way, but here it looks like she's actually accepting it and wanting to be a part of the group. And something happens at the end of this episode which really cements what I think. So of course the episode does play out like you think it will. They save the day, they save Navarro, etc. But after the battle, the armorer actually brings Bo-Katan into the forge on Navarro. And this is the same forge that we saw back in season 1, but of course now it's destroyed and blown up to bits. The armorer asks Bo about about the Forge, about her history, and if she was really the one who saw the mythosaur. And of course, Beau did see the mythosaur, and the armorer sees this as a sign of respect. And not only that, this means that a new era is being formed. Bo-Katan is going to be the one who ushers in this new way for the Mandalorians. The armorer actually tells Beau to take her helmet off, and she does. She hesitates because she doesn't know if this is a test, but she ends up taking the helmet off in front of her. Now, I thought we were actually going to see the armorer take her helmet off, but I think we might see that later on. If you look closely at the armorer's helmet, we see these spikes, and this is really reminiscent of someone from Dathomir. People from Dathomir, such as the Night Sisters and the Zabrak, actually were the species of Darth Maul. They have those spikes on their heads, so maybe the armorer is a Zabrak or from Dathomir. The armorer delegates Bo-Katan as this leader character now and is part of the Watch, which is a little suspicious, but I really think Beau is sold on the idea that she could lead these people even though she lost all of her people in the past. She failed before, but she can actually succeed again and redeem herself, similar to how Din redeemed himself at the beginning of the season. She doesn't really need the Darksaber anymore. She probably still wants it. But now that she's on this quest to retrieve and maybe tame the mythosaur, that is definitely at the top of her priority list, and I think that's what she really wants. So yeah, it was a super happy episode, but of course they can't leave us without a cliffhanger. We pull away from Din and Beau, and we actually focus on Carson Teva, who was in an X-Wing searching in the remains of a broken ship. Now he's actually investigating on his own because we remember him talking earlier about the fact that Moff Gideon was rumored to not actually have been captured. So of course we see this Lambda shuttle, which is actually former Imperial technology and former Imperial stuff, and we see these remains of people. But of course the remains of Moff Gideon are not there, and this was actually the ship that was capturing him. But Carson Teva sees something that really raises our eyebrow. In the ship, along with all the bodies and debris, are remains of Beskar. Now, what does this mean? Does this mean a Mandalorian saved him? Or does it mean that there's something else going on? Maybe Moff Gideon is a former Mandalorian himself. If we flash back to previous seasons, he knows so much about Din Djarin, about Cara Dune, about Mandalore and Bo-Katan, that it's a little weird. Of course, he's a high-ranking Imperial officer, but he knows so much information. Maybe he's actually a Mandalorian. Now, I could be completely wrong and there could be other things going on, but I think that would be kind of interesting. Now, after this, the episode ends. I really enjoyed this one. It moved the plot forward and actually got me excited to see what's happening next. We are already 5 episodes into the 9-episode series, and I really wanted the plot to move a little bit faster than it did. But now we're full steam ahead. We're over halfway done, and we really gotta hone in on what's gonna happen this season. I think Beau is gonna ride the mythosaur. I think Moff Gideon's gonna come back in a crazy way we didn't expect. I think Grogu is going to really develop, and I hope Din Djarin gets more of a spotlight. I think my main issue, not really an issue, but something I want to point out, is that Din Djarin really has had to share the spotlight with plenty of characters this season. This season has been focusing on everything going around Din Djarin, not necessarily the Mandalorian himself. And a side effect of that is having Grogu sidelined as well. We've had episodes focusing on Dr. Pershing, Bo-Katan, the Armorer, and now we have Greef Karga and the New Republic. But of course we did get the amazing action sequences and everything that we would really wish for in The Mandalorian. I just want a little bit more time with Din Djarin, that's it. Not to say it was bad at all. I actually really liked this episode, and it's one of my favorites from the season so far. Because now we actually have a compass. Now we actually have something to look forward to and theorize about what might happen next. My mind is already turning on videos I'm going to try and make and discuss who saved Moff Gideon, what was up with the Beskar in that ship, and what does Zeb showing up have to do with the New Republic and Ahsoka? Because I got a feeling they didn't just throw him in there for no reason. Lastly, The Bad Batch Season 2 actually ended today, and I'm going to make a retrospective video on this season as a whole. I know I didn't make episodes for each one, but man, that finale was really something, and I'm gonna make a video on it. I want to know what you guys thought about this episode. Were you excited that the plot is finally moving? Did you love all the action sequences like I did? Were you surprised that Zeb returned? Because I know I was. Let me know down below and hit that subscribe button on your way out. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all very soon.